Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history and the esoteric power behind one of the world's most misunderstood symbols. We're going to trace a geometric form that has totally captivated mystics, scholars, and spiritual seekers across completely different cultures for thousands of years. Okay, let's dive into this. When you look at these two iconic six-pointed stars, it's incredibly easy to just assume they're the exact same thing, right? Both share that classic hexagram shape, and both have these incredibly deep roots in history. But this visual resemblance often leads to a whole lot of confusion. In reality, they're separated by distinct histories, profoundly different meanings, and some very unique spiritual applications. So, while they might look identical at first glance, the devil really is in the details, or, well, in this case, the geometry. The Star of David, or Magen David, is built from two separate, flat, overlapping equilateral triangles. It's widely recognized today as the preeminent symbol of modern Judaism. But the Seal of Solomon, it's traditionally depicted as a three-dimensional, interwoven, geometric knot. The lines literally weave over and under each other, creating this single, continuous form. And it's that interwoven nature that sets it apart as a symbol of unbroken cosmic magic and esoteric authority. Here is our roadmap for the explainer so we don't get lost in the mystical history. First, we'll untangle the two stars. Second, we'll look at the ancient legend of the ring. Third, we'll explore grimoires and medieval magic. Fourth, we decode the sacred geometry itself. And finally, we'll look at its universal legacy of protection. All right, Section 1, two stars, one shape. To really get a grip on the seal, we first need to bust the myth that it's just another name for the Star of David. We have to look at the historical and structural differences between the two ancient kings these shapes are named after. King David was famously a warrior king, right? He defended the borders of Israel. So his symbol was associated with the physical magun, a defensive shield of divine protection. But there's also a super fascinating paleographic dimension here. In ancient Paleo-Hebrew script, the letter Dalet was actually written as a triangle. So if you spell the name David, Dalet, Vav, Dalet, you are visually juxtaposing two triangular forms. That provided this perfect structural foundation for associating the double triangle hexagram directly with the Davidic lineage. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast with his son. See, King Solomon wasn't celebrated as a warrior at all. He was the archetype of administrative wisdom, peace, and scientific sovereignty. His seal wasn't meant for defense. It was an instrument of active command. It was a signet ring used to dictate laws and synthesize the forces of the supernatural world. Its interwoven nature symbolizes an unbreakable bond and absolute cosmic order. Moving right along, Section 2, Legend of the Ring. So you might be wondering, where did this whole idea of Solomon having magical authority actually come from? Well, let's step outside the standard biblical canon and into the incredibly rich mythological origins found in late antique apocryphal legends. The foundational mythos where Solomon's magical authority over supernatural entities first formally appears is in a text called the Testament of Solomon. This is a pseudo-epigraphical Greek manuscript, which basically means it falsely claimed to be written by Solomon himself. It was composed between the 1st and 5th century CE, so we're talking over 1,000 years after Solomon's actual death, and it details a highly cinematic, frankly wild version of the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. According to this ancient text, the temple's construction was literally being sabotaged by demons. In response, God, acting through the Archangel Michael, gifted Solomon a magical signet ring. This ring, engraved with the seal of Solomon, gave him the incredible power to bind demons and absolutely force them to build the temple. It also allowed him to lock jinn in jars, command supernatural forces to do his bidding, and even communicate with animals. It is this awe-inspiring, almost cinematic legend that truly established his proverbial wisdom in the mystical world. This brings us to Section 3, Grimoires and Medieval Magic. Now, this legend of the ring didn't just fade away in late antiquity. Oh no, it spread like wildfire. It fueled centuries of magical textbooks across entirely different cultures and eras, completely shaping the world of medieval magic. But to understand this era, we need to clarify what a grimoire actually is. Coming from the old French word for grammar, a grimoire is basically a textbook of magic. These were not just fun storybooks. They were highly detailed, serious instruction manuals on how to create magical objects like talismans and amulets, how to cast spells, and critically, how to summon or invoke supernatural entities like angels and demons. As you'll see here, the Seal of Solomon went on an incredible journey through these grimoires. We start off with the Testament of Solomon in early Christian and Jewish sects. Then the symbol and the legend crossed over into the Islamic world. By the 10th century, we see Arabic astral magic in the Picatrix, and later the massively influential 13th century Shams al-Ma'arif by al-Buni. Eventually, this transmission of Arabic occult sciences into Latin Europe catalyzed Western ceremonial magic. And that culminated in famous 17th century works like the Lemajet, also known as the Lesser Key of Solomon. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how early depictions of these magical seals actually looked. If we look at the transmission of Islamic talismans, like the text shown here discussing the 7 magical signs, the very first sign, often referred to simply as the seal or the letter Ha, actually started out as the shape of a simple, small circle. But as scholars documented the evolution of these sign magics, that simple, small circle eventually morphed. Because the letter Ha has the numerical value of 5, the symbol was increasingly replaced by a 5-pointed star. From there, it became largely interchangeable with the 6-pointed hexagram we instantly recognize today. Both shapes carried immense numerical and cosmic significance for these practitioners. Okay, get ready for a fascinating linguistic twist. As these Solomonic symbols diffused out of ceremonial magic and into everyday popular European folklore, the hexagram's association with magical operations left a permanent mark on our language. In German-speaking lands, the word for a witch is Hexe, and spellcasting is hexen. That means the modern English term for casting a hex literally stems from this 6-pointed geometry's folkloric use in magic. Crazy, right? All right, Section 4, Decoding the Secret Geometry. Let's move beyond the history for a second and actually break down the complex interwoven architecture of the secret seal of Solomon itself, just to understand how it functioned as a spiritual tool. The secret seal is a highly structured system of divine creative power. The Lemmageddon describes it as this intense, geometric composition. It features the hexagram completely encircled by Hebrew divine names, specifically the 72 names of God, along with angelic seals and various esoteric symbols. It also tightly encodes sacred numbers. You've got 3 for the divine trinity, 4 representing the elements, 6 for the directions, and 7 for the classical planets. So the crucial point is that every single choice in this interwoven geometry is entirely deliberate. It's like a giant puzzle where everything fits perfectly. The upward-pointing triangle symbolizes fire, human aspiration, and the divine reaching down. The downward-pointing triangle symbolizes water, earthly grounding, and the human reaching up. The interlaced triangles represent the ultimate alchemical synthesis of opposites into divine harmony. It's the absolute symbol of perfect balance between heaven and earth. Let's move to our final part, Section 5, a legacy of protection. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because you see, the Seal of Solomon didn't just stay locked away in dusty ancient texts. It became a living, breathing protective force all across the world. It is absolutely amazing to highlight the interconnectedness of human belief here. This single geometric design was embraced by completely different faiths for spiritual protection. In Jewish Kabbalah, it's used on amulets to ward off the evil eye. In the Islamic tradition, it is the Khatam Sulayman, used for protection and commanding jinn. Western occultism relies on it for formal ritual magic circles, and in Hoodoo and folk magic, you'll find it printed right on protective oils and talismans to draw down divine power. Ultimately, pretty much every tradition that engages with Solomon's legacy lands on the exact same teaching. And I think it perfectly summarizes the core philosophy of our explainer today. The true protective power of the seal represents the ultimate triumph of wisdom and harmony over brute force, the spiritual and the material, held together not by violence, but by profound understanding. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, if a single symbol, just a simple arrangement of interlaced triangles, can transcend centuries and major world religions to remind us that true power stems from wisdom? What other ancient secrets are just hiding in plain sight in our modern world, waiting to be decoded? Keep looking closely, and thanks for exploring with us today.